Hey, folks. So, I just thought yesterday that often what happens at this point is because the last splurge happens 3 days, well, the last splurge session happens 3 days after the previous one. Everyone gets used to the 2 days. Often people get confused at the end as to what day is what. So right now, and it's also very confusing because I live in the future, being here in Australia. By the way, if you're from America or then this isn't an Australian accent, okay? Because I'm English, so this is an English accent. But I live in Australia, so and I'm half Indian, so there you go, a man of the world. So anyway, yeah, because I live in the future, being in Australia, it's also very confusing because I have, on some live streams I'll say tomorrow, and for other people that will mean today. So it's just like mind bending, the time zone thing. Trust me, my team, I'm the only one who's in Australia in my team. So, most people are in the US. One of my team is in the Philippines and UK as well. So, yeah, it's very mind-bending. So anyway, we are on day 10 of the Idea Explosion Challenge. Tomorrow, depending on your time zone, is day 11. Okay, so yeah, and this time tomorrow will be the final direct listening live session. Okay. Hamza. Yes. Well, I wouldn't say I'm from Australia. I live in Australia currently. So I'm now living in Queensland. I was in Sydney for a while. And about a year ago, just under a year ago, I moved to the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland, which is literally like paradise. So I'm very, very, very grateful to live here. Anyway, let's get some questions going. And this is a good question from Hamza. Good morning. There are many types of splurges. Do you dive into different splurges depending on the day? Or do you just do all of them as you feel? Such a simple but a really handy concept. Yeah. So first of all, this Q&A, it can be about literally anything. It doesn't have to be just about splurging, okay? It doesn't have to be about the Idea Explosion Challenge competition. I've been doing this music thing a fair while. So, if you've got any questions at all about promo, about marketing, about the music business, about motivation, about music theory, about production, about mixing, about anything. If I have some value to give, I will answer it. About how I do things, about how other people do things, although I might not know a lot about that, then please feel free to ask. Okay, so there are, and just post your question in the chat. Okay, I'm just gonna. Many types of splurges. Do you just dive into different splurges depending on the day, or do you just do all of them as you feel? Well, it depends what you mean. So, obviously, one of the things that I do is I coach people. So I will often in some of my programs, in fact, there's one of my programs called, in fact, two of my programs, The Leap and Mission Make Music Your Life. The Leap is the boot camp style. It's the flagship program, that the top one that isn't one-to-one coaching or mastermind groups. In that, I teach you the full automatic music machine over 8 weeks, and it's like a kind of creativity training. And then we talk about the business side of things and setting up music businesses around all the music you've been making. And in that, I give different types of splurges at the start. In my program, Mission Make Music Your Life, which is much more of a long-term thing, weekly missions, every 4 weeks, you get a different type of splurge. And I get people to focus on a specific splurge for like a couple of weeks. Really what the splurge, one of the things that a splurge is, it's like a kind of a way of teaching yourself things, or a way of practicing things, it can be too. So, if you really want to, it's also a way of learning equipment, learning new gear. Because what you're actually doing in splurging is you're removing many of the barriers. Like the difficulty with making music and practicing comes in that there are so many things to focus on that you end up just scattering your attention, getting completely overwhelmed, not actually practicing anything, and then just ending up on YouTube watching tutorials or something like that. Yeah. And because there are so many bars that are so high, and by just removing one of the biggest ones, which is, oh my God, I've got to make something amazing. Yeah. It actually gives you the space. And also, remember with the splurge, there are limitations. Yeah. By introducing these limitations, what it's doing is it's allowing you to focus on something. Yeah. And the way that you can design your splurges is like, okay, so I've just got this new synth, or VST. I want to focus on, what it can do. What I often will do, this works with sample packs as well. It works with, if you get a preset collection or something and you want to check it out. Like, for instance, something I'll do is I'll go, right, I'm going to do so for instance, I've just downloaded the update to Pigments by Arturia. Yeah, and there was an offer on, you know how it is with the music production industrial complex, giving you these ridiculous, offers, is basically, and there was an offer on a bunch of sound packs, like instead of $99, it was $10 or something ridiculous. I was like, I'll just do that. So I got that. So if I was gonna, I probably won't do this, but if I was like going to do this, this is how I would do it. I go, right, I'm going to, for the next week, I'm going to do 5 splurges a day, and each splurge is I'm going to start with a preset from this sound pack. Yeah. So that would be my rule. And then I just do a splurge like 5 splurges doing that. So by the end of the week, I'd have gone through 35 of the sounds of the new sounds in this new synth. And, I wouldn't worry about, I might note down when I'm splurging the things I didn't understand about the synth or stuff, but I wouldn't do it while I was splurging. When I'd finished splurging, I'd write down, okay, so I don't know about this, I don't understand about that. I'd continue splurging, and then at a different time, in a different place, well, maybe not in a different place, but at a different time when I'm not actually making music, I would then find out the things I need to find out. Yeah, about how the synth works or whatever. Yeah, that is an absolutely fantastic way of getting to know a bit of gear. Yeah, is rather than like poring over the manual and going, or buying one of those courses, which you can do later on, is just start using it by splurging, because you're removing barriers. Yeah, and you can just focus on getting to know that bit of gear. So that's just one thing that you can do with splurging. There's loads of other things as well. I've already given you the unique style one. If you find a particular type of part hard. So I had a masterminder, a long-term masterminder, who's a pretty well-known DJ actually, and it was quite funny because he made kind of bass music, and one of the things he found hardest was bass lines. right. It was bass lines. And so I was like, right, I'm not going to say who it was, obviously. I was saying, right, what I want you to do for the next 2 weeks before our next mastermind session is I want you to do 100 bass line splurges. Yeah, so it's literally, you've got a beat, yeah, and I just want you to make as many bass lines as you possibly can over, it doesn't have to be the same beat, but basically, you can just use a different beat each day and do 10 a day. And he just did it over and over again because he was kind of agonizing over every bass line. It was taking him absolutely ages. And in doing that, lo and behold, what happened? He broke his problem with bass lines. Yeah. So it's like you can do lots and lots of different things with a splurge. Okay. I'm just, here we go. Let's have a look. Got some questions here. I'm just marking them so I don't. Okay, brilliant. All right. So let's have a look here. Safe Nafe. My question is, are you copywriting your music through any PRS or just relying on proof of production via YouTube? I know many people use SoundCloud, just upload their creations without protection. So PRS isn't copywriting your music. It's just registering. I mean, that it's not the same thing. So, I mean, I can see why you would say that, but it's if you want to copyright something, you would get a copyright for it. But the fact that you actually, first of all, I'm not a music lawyer, right? So please understand, like, this is not legal advice. Okay, so that's the first thing. And so if I speak out of turn or have misunderstood something, I'm, just ignore it. But actually registering your work with PRS isn't actually copywriting it. The fact that you wrote it is copywriting it, and it will be on your hard drive. And as long as you can prove that you wrote it at a certain point, then you haven't registered the copyright, but you do actually own the copyright, as far as I know. Okay, so registering something with PRS isn't copywriting it. It's not the same thing. What it is you're saying to PRS, and by the way, what PRS is the Performing Rights Society in the UK. There are lots of different ones in different countries. And what they do is they collect certain types of royalties. Okay, not the royalties. Well, actually, I'm not going to get into the whole publishing thing because it's extremely confusing. But basically, they collect a certain type of royalties. So what you're doing by submitting your compositions to PRS, and you've got to be a member of this of that Performing Rights Society, whatever it is in your country. What you're doing is you're registering you as the writer. That isn't copywriting it. That's a different thing. Okay. I mean, it might sound like the same thing, but it's not actually the same thing. So what you're doing is you're saying to PRS, I wrote this and I am entitled to get these types of royalties. Please, can you collect them for me? I'm a member of your organization. So you need to, when this thing gets played on in these different areas, I'm the person that is supposed to be paid for it. Okay. So that's the first thing to say. You're not actually copywriting officially your music by registering it with PRS. You're simply registering you as the writer, which isn't the same thing. Okay. That's as far as I know. Again, not a music lawyer. This is not legal advice. Okay. I mean, so in terms of music copyright, back in the day when we started, what we used to do to copyright our music is we used to make a what did we use? Yeah, we used to make a CD of it. I was just thinking, was it a tape or a CD? But it was a CD. We used to make a CD of something we'd written because we'd send these things out to labels, yeah, to see if we could get signed. So, and we were obviously back then worried about people, stealing it and that kind of thing. So what we'd do is we'd actually make a CD of it and send it, post it to ourselves. Yeah. So it would come back with the postmark on it, with the date on it. Yeah. And then we wouldn't open that letter, right? Because then we'd have proof that we actually wrote this piece of music. Okay. This was when we first started. When I say we, it was me and a guy called Andy who went on to be in Groove Armada. And by the way, someone did ask me a question about when I was in Groove Armada. I was never in Groove Armada. My very good friend Andy ended up being in Groove Armada. Anyway, so that's what we used to. That's what we used to do. To be honest with you, and again, I'm not a music lawyer, and this is probably the worst advice you'll ever get. I just don't worry too much about people stealing my music. I just don't. I really don't. Like, I never have. It's like, if people are stealing your music, then you've got a really good problem. That's the first thing to say. Now, any music lawyers watching this are going to go, oh my God. Yeah, but that's like, I totally get it. And what I'm saying isn't right. It's just my approach. Okay. It's just, I've got other things that are way, way, way more important to me than somebody stealing my music. Yeah. One is making more music. Yeah. And it's like you can literally spend hours and hours and hours obsessing about people stealing things from you, which will stop you from creating more things. So my approach is definitely to put the majority of my focus on simply creating more stuff. Yeah, because as I said, if someone steals something, then you've got a good problem. Yeah. And that problem may be, it may be something that you can sort out. Yeah, you would want to sort out. Yeah, but it's almost like and again, this is my personal opinion and not something that I am recommending that you do, because as I said, some music lawyers would watch this and go, this is the worst advice I've ever heard. Okay, right? I've never had a problem doing this. Yeah, is that make more music, put it out there, get people, get as many people as you want to listen to it. And that's really it. Yes, register the works with the collecting societies and whatever else. If you've got a publishing deal, register it with them so that you get the royalties. And don't worry too much about people stealing your music. It's like music's everywhere. It's not, if it's stolen and it becomes massive, okay, well then maybe you've got a problem, but it's a good problem to have, right? So yeah. Now with the Zentor stuff, which is me making music live, I haven't even registered any of that music. I don't even know what the individual tracks within these albums that I'm creating are. So at the moment, all I'm doing is putting music out on YouTube by playing it, and I'm releasing it on Bandcamp. That's all I'm doing at the moment because I'm starting out again. Yeah, so started in January. It's now April, and so there's a lot of stuff I have to think about, and all of that admin stuff will come as the rest of the stuff that I'm doing sort of happens. Yeah. As the rest of the stuff I'm doing becomes more, natural. It's sort of like I don't have to think about it anymore. So for instance, when I started, it took me ages to master the stereo files of the recordings. Right now, I'm actually mixing the separate files of one of the performances. In fact, it was there was a bunch of people after the Idea Explosion Challenge competition. We all had quite a moment. It was like a woo thing. So I'm actually mixing that, and it's much easier for me to do because I've got the mastering end of it kind of figured out. So it doesn't take me very long. First time I mastered one of those albums, it took me ages. It took me like a week, right? Now I can do it because it's like I've got it all set up and I know what to do, and I can just do it. I can just like do it. Right, I've got to do this next. Quickly listen. Okay, is it okay? Right, set it going while I do something else. So that thing that took me ages is now taking me very little time, and I'm getting a better quality result. So that means I can now add something else, the mixing. Right, now I'm going to mix these separate parts so it sounds much better. And again, this is taking me a long time. Well, a fairly long time, and there's only 5 parts. 6 parts if you include effects and stuff. But anyway, so this is taking me a long time. But again, I'm getting that in place. Pretty soon, that will become a process that takes me a short amount of time because I'll get good at it. Yeah. At that point, I will start worrying about things. Well, I don't know if at that point I will start thinking about other things like, all right, I'm just doing this very simple thing where I'm doing live streams on YouTube and putting the thing on Bandcamp. Maybe I want to think about putting some of these tracks on Spotify, or maybe I want to think about registering some of these tracks, or maybe I want to pull out some of the sections of the video and make shorter videos for the channel so that more people can kind of get involved, because it's quite a high bar, the thing I'm asking people to do, which is, come and listen to me play for an hour, right? So, if I just make these 5-minute videos, well, then I can start doing that. When I start doing that, I'll do that for a while. I'll figure out how to do it quickly. I'll get a process in place and probably get a team member to start doing it, right? So then that will be done, and I won't have to think about it. Then I'll focus on something else. Yeah. So again, can you see how what I'm recommending that you do with your creative process, which is taking each individual part and focusing on that, so that you can like make a lot of progress on a smaller thing, and then adding something else, once that becomes kind of more natural, that's how you get success, rather than like being overwhelmed by, I've got to register the copyright, I've got to do PRS, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It's just like, just one step at a time, one thing at a time. Focus on the highest leverage action at any given moment. First, get that dialed in, then move on to the next, because it starts to become automatic. That's why I despair at not everybody, but a lot of people obsessing about the mixing and mastering when their ideas aren't good enough yet. Right? It's like there's so little stuff out there about how to make great ideas. On YouTube, for instance. So little. I mean, there's virtually none. But why? What? This is music, right? So why aren't people focusing on making great ideas? And worrying. I mean, yes, mixing and mastering, all that kind of stuff is important, absolutely. But you can't polish a turd. So again, focusing on when I say focusing on the highest leverage thing first, it's like, what is the most important thing right now that I need to get really good at so that it kind of becomes automatic? And if you're making music, it has to be the ideas, right? I mean, I don't think my ideas are good enough. I don't. So I'm still very, very focused on that. Of course, I still do the other things, but for me, it's still very much about the ideas, because that's the music. So I'm going off on a tangent, but basically what I'm trying to say is anything that you do in life has an enormous number of elements to it, that you have to master if you want to become really great. You cannot master anything unless you focus on everything at once. You won't do anything. You'll just end up watching YouTube tutorials. Okay. So, if at this stage, copywriting or registering your music is the highest leverage thing you can do, and it will be at some point, then do it. If it's not, if you're not actually finishing any music right now, don't worry about it. Okay. I will try and make some of these answers a little less long. I'd love to hear you talk about your release marketing process. I think I just did. So at the moment, this isn't what I always did. I've ran many record labels through my life. I don't know, over 10 little ones. Most of them were vinyl record labels. So I've done, and there were some digital ones as well. So I've done a lot of that in the past. But basically, at the moment, I'm keeping it very, very simple because I'm focused on the number one thing right now, which is making the music as good as it can be. So while music is in many ways the same as any other business, right? And I'm going to call it a business, in that what you need a product that people want, and you need the people who want it, right? That is the base, like what a business is the thing that delivers and creates often the product that people want to and attracts the people who want it, right? It's the thing that and music's the same, So you've got music and other things related to that music, that people want, and the music attracts the people, as well as being the product. Now, and it's the same for anything. It's the same for drills and coaching and clothes and food, and it's the same. There is actually, in that, when you zoom out like that, music's the same as anything else. Okay, I mean, particularly now that everything, we see everything, and it's not like we have a separate shop for music. I mean, there are music shops, obviously, but it's like everything's on the same feed, everything's in the same place. It's like we're next to whatever else you're interested in or whatever else you buy. Okay, so particularly now on the internet, it's a really, really important thing to understand that. Music's basically the same as anything else. However, in some ways, it's not the same as anything else. The main way is that, so if I can as a coach say, well, you don't want to be listening to that guy over there, right, who's talking right now for you. I'm not talking to you, CGM, because I don't know. but let's just say, someone. You don't want to be listening to that guy over there who's making YouTube tutorials about compression ratios and EQing, right? Because your ideas aren't good enough yet. Unless you want to be a sound engineer, in which case, fine. But yeah, if you want to be an artist, then that's not your highest leverage place to improve your music. Highest leverage place to improve your music is improving your ideas. So listen to me. Yeah. So now what I just did there was I sold you on my message. Yeah. Because of the benefits of it related to something else. That's something that you can do with drills. It's something that you can do with food. It's something you can do with coaching, right? But it's not something you can do with music. So I can't say to you, hey, Floating Points fan or John Hopkins fan, you need to listen to Zentor, not Floating Points or John Hopkins, because the features of my Zentor music will mean that you get the specific experience that you want. Much more. It's like it doesn't work like that. Yeah, that's how music is different. Music is discovered, not sold. Okay. Now, how that actually works is music is attached to something else. Okay. So a playlist is very obvious these days. A radio, yeah. A radio, a DJ, yeah. An event, a product, a film, a friend. Yeah, so if, obviously often a friend will come and go, oh, check this out. Yeah. So it's like, that's how music is discovered. It's attached to something else. Yeah. A genre, a chart. Yeah, it's attached to something else. And then when the listener hears that music, they either like it or they don't. Yeah. Now that is different to the other products that I've been talking about. Yeah, where I can actually say, I can give you a reasons why you don't want to be listening to that. Well, even though this mixing, professor may well be giving great advice about mixing. If you want to be an artist, maybe that's not the best thing to do right now. Yeah, because I can actually give you reasons why that's the case. I can't do that with music. It's kind of like, yes, you can display it to people. You can make sure that it is discovered. Yeah. Well, not make sure, but you can encourage it to be discovered. And I'll show you how. I'm doing it in a second. But essentially, when they come into contact with it, either they want more of it or they don't. Okay. That's a really, really important concept to understand. Now, what that means is that the music itself is extremely, extremely important. It's your number one promotional tool is the music itself. So my number one marketing tactic or strategy right now is very simple. It's become so good they can't ignore you. Now, I've nicked that phrase from Steve Martin, who actually said, be so good they can't ignore you. But I think it's, for me, for the way I think about things, it's much better for me to say become so good they can't ignore you, because it's about becoming rather than being. Yeah. Because in the new music industry, how you become so good they can't ignore you is by putting your music out. Right? So the age of gatekeepers who look for, discover, then develop, then create a finished article and put loads of money behind it and launch it into the world. I mean, it's not exactly over, but it's kind of over. Yeah, I mean, it still works, it still happens, but it's kind of over. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about independent music, it's done. I mean, they're just not. No, it's gone. Yeah. So actually, how you become so good they can't ignore you is by being in the market, by building your following, by becoming so good they can't ignore you, you become so good they can't ignore you by building your business, and you build your business by becoming so good they can't ignore you. Yeah. So you don't wait, you do it. In the process of doing it, you get so much more. When I say feedback, it's not so much people telling you things, it's your own internal feedback by putting the music out there. You know, I've been talking about how your perception changes depending on the context. As soon as you put your music out there, it's like it changes the way that you perceive it for the good. Yeah. So essentially, my number one strategy is become so good they can't ignore you. Yeah, using the releasing of my music, the performing of the music to practice, to know what to practice. Yeah. And also, I am noticing what people are responding to as well and what people are saying. I'm not obsessing about it. If I don't want to do the thing that they're like, oh, we should do more of this, yeah, then I'm not going to, yeah, because I'm the artist, yeah. But I am paying attention to what people are responding to as well, yeah. Having said that, I am also at this stage, and bear in mind, in the future, I'm going to be doing some more things. So this is just the start. Again, I'm starting on the highest leverage things, and once that's kind of in place, I'm moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing. Yeah. At this point, this is very, very early. So at this point, I am. Let's see if I can actually find the thing. I'll show you. I'll show you how I'm thinking about making my music more discoverable. Because remember, music isn't sold, it's discovered. So, you know, when people say, well, you know, the music sells itself. See, that's not true either. It sells itself at the point at which it's able to be discovered. So you've got to make it discoverable. So it's not that you don't do any, just don't do any marketing, don't think about promotion, right? But again, you can't sell it. This is a kind of a hard thing to understand. There's a nuance to it. The music is it does sell itself at the point at which someone hears it, right? But you can do things in order to get people to hear it. Yeah. So very simple. Hang on. How do I do this? All right, this isn't going to work, I don't think. Straight off, I'm going to have to do something. Here we go. This works. Right. So here you can see, this is my Mike Mondaly channel. Okay, so here you can see all of the daily live streams that I'm doing, and here you can see the names that I'm using. Right, phase lock loop, Zener breakdown, unicity distance, linear complexity, dynamic keying, all or nothing transform, Hamming distance, double shuffling, depletion region. All of these names they're from computer science, engineering, maths, that kind of thing. Okay, they're sort of sciencey names. Now, there's a number of different reasons for it. One is that the whole point of Zentor is the intersection of man and machine. So it's kind of on brand, if you like. Okay, so that's one reason. So it's kind of creating all right, so this is what this is all about. Yeah. But the other reason is that I know there's a group of people who are going to recognize these names. Who is that group of people? Well, people like, maths people, coders, computer science people, yeah, engineers, yeah. Why am I targeting those people with these names? Number one, because I've noticed that a lot of those people tend to like this kind of music. Yeah. Number two, because this kind of music and the way that I'm doing it actually works really well for doing things like coding. Yeah. It's music for coding is one of the things it is. Yeah. And I know that it's got this immersive, long form kind of quality to it. It's repetitive and it's very focusy. Yeah, so it's good for working too, and these type of people do that. So I'm actually zeroing in on a specific audience of people simply by what I'm calling the things. Yeah. I know that doesn't mean that everybody is that who enjoys the music, but that doesn't matter. Yeah. Second thing I'm doing is I'm focusing on another group of people with the second half of this. Mozart, subharmonicon, DFAM, Mother 32, human. Yeah. People who want to make music with these machines. Right? Because they'll see, oh, look, there's an all tunes, no talk thing. Here, back here, I even had it in the thumbnails. Yeah. So I'm essentially focusing on two audiences of people and making this more discoverable for them. Yeah. Because I've got to start somewhere. Right? That doesn't mean that I only care about computer science majors. It doesn't mean that my music is only for engineers. Right? It doesn't mean that at all. It just means I've identified a function that this music could fulfill. Well, when people are coding or working out mathematical problems or something, and I've gone, all right, well, it works really well for that. I'm going to focus on those people. Yeah. Similarly, people who are into these machines here. Yeah, watching somebody make the music live is going to be valuable to them, and they're going to be interested in it. Yeah, so that's essentially at the moment the strategy that I have for making the music more discoverable. And there's a lot more that I'm going to do, and there's a lot more I can do. But for now, that's the idea. In the future, as I said, I will chop up some of the videos, and I will do 2-minute videos saying, this is what happens when a DFAM has a fight with a subharmonicon or something. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Because again, that's focusing on the people who are interested in this equipment. Yeah. And gradually, and as I said, I'm sure that many of the people who are on my live streams aren't computer science majors and don't have a subharmonicon, but that's fine. That isn't going to stop them from, it's not going to make any difference. Yeah. And yes, I will start finishing some of the tracks out of it and putting them on Spotify. I will start doing all that kind of thing, but I'm not really focused on the whole thing right now. I'm focused on becoming so good that they can't ignore you and attracting certain groups of people. Yeah. Because it's amazing. Relevance, yeah, is one of the most important things. Like, if you want to take anything away from this CGM, what I've just been talking about, and again, I've been talking for a very long time. Again, relevance is one of the most important concepts in marketing. Your marketing wants to be saying to the person, this is for you. Yeah. And you can do that with the words. You can do that with how the music works. You can do that with what you kind of say. Yeah. You can do that with the product, what it's about. Yeah. So my Zentor thing is about the intersection of man and machine and all of that kind of stuff. And it kind of all kind of fits the same thing. Okay. So Hamza, also wondering if you teach mastering, mixing, and or sound design. I do have some missions where I show certain things about mixing, but no, I don't really teach in that way, because I think all these things are best learnt by actually doing the thing. So I do have, for instance, with mixing, I'll tell you how I think about mixing right now. With mixing, I think one of the worst things that you can do is say, I just need to balance everything. A balanced mix is a boring, flat and lifeless mix. Okay. I want a spiky mix. What I mean by that is when you're mixing a piece of music, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a space, an environment, or 2 spaces or 3 spaces. Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people who are at the start, at the start of their journey, their music journey making, is that their music sounds like it's coming out of a door. Yeah, that's because they're trying to balance everything. Or can I hear everything? Yeah, if you were able to hear everything exactly the same, everything's flat. Yeah, it's got no depth. It's just some things want to be louder and some things want to be softer. Yeah, that's what creates the space. Well, one of the things that creates the space. Yeah, actually, if you want to understand what I'm talking about, then consider doing the Turbo Track Attack workshop. I think there's a link in the description. I think I remember to put it there. Because basically I take you all the way through the process from splurge to a rough mix, and within the space of 3 hours. And you'll get like some of the ways I think about this and actually how to do it as well. Yeah, I get people drawing pictures and all kinds of things like that. But it's really, really helpful to have this frame. In fact, I did a coaching session with one of my clients yesterday just about mixing. And, what he was doing was, it was almost like he was like randomly doing stuff because he'd heard he should do it. Yeah. But when I gave him this frame, which is what space are you creating? Yeah, because like each part wants to exist in this space. And that's what creates the feeling of a space. I mean, if you listen to my Zentor music, you'll hear it's all about, but it's very much about the spaces that I'm creating. I'll go from this massive, like huge sort of universal space to this very, very, very close space. Yeah. And that's what you're trying to do with the mixing, really. You're trying to create spaces by putting some things further back, putting things right in front of your face, left, right, up, down. Yeah. So I kind of do teach mixing, but I don't do it. It's not, I very rarely talk, in sort of technical terms about compression ratios and stuff, because I've never learned that. How I learned mixing was by doing it. Okay. Alicia, I find that my software is holding me back. What can I do if I have limited synth sounds? So Alicia, that's, all right. So I had a mastermind client, and he came to me in our first kickoff session. He said, he was like, "Oh man, I can't finish any, I can't finish any music." So you know what I told him to do? I told him to use one VST, and he's got to make as much music as he can before we next talk with this one VST. He came back and he had made massive progress. So Alicia, you've got it the wrong way round. The less options that you have, the more creative that you will be. Yeah. Do you know how many how many sounds I have? I've got 1, 2, 3, and then 2 VSTs. That's it. That's all I ever use in my music. Okay. So what it may well be is that you don't know what to do with the sounds that you have. More sounds isn't going to mean better music. There's an ad, I can't remember who it's by a sample pack company, and it says, with over 10 million sounds at your disposal, what are you going to create today? Do you know what my answer to that is? 10 million sounds? Absolutely nothing. Because it's just too much. Limitations are what make you creative. Okay? Limitations are what mean that you have to be creative. So what I would recommend that you do is go back, just keep to the sounds that you have and think, well, what can I do with this? Yeah. How can I use this thing differently? That's what the preset splurge is all about if you've been doing the Idea Explosion Challenge competition. Yeah. So limited sounds is a good thing. It's all about creating limitations, because then you can get really good at using the thing that you're using. So it sounds to me like you have a belief that more sounds is going to mean better music. We're actually getting better at using the sounds that you have is going to mean better music. Yeah. Again, I use 5 things. Yeah. It's literally 5 things. I mean, I've got the DFAM, I've got the subharmonicon, and I use the Mother 32 as a hat. basically. Occasionally it's a bass, but usually it's a hat. A very expensive hat sound, okay? That's it. The subharmonicon, yeah, it does make different kinds of sounds, but it's basically the same sound. Sorry, the DFAM, and the same with the subharmonicon. They do basically the same thing, right? But it's like, what can I do with this? Yeah. Practice what you have. Don't think about what you don't. Okay. Mirrorfly, how do you make production more addictive and fun? So, number one, focus on what I just said, which was on less. So, if you think about a video game or computer game, what is it that makes them addictive and fun? There's the progression. There's the thought that, okay, you know that thing where it's like, oh God, I wonder what it's going to be like when I get that, I don't know, gun. Yeah. It'll be really cool because I'll be able to kill loads of monsters. Yeah. So you work towards getting that gun or that power up or something. Yeah. It's like there's a curiosity factor. What's it going to be like when I can? Yeah. What's it going to be like when I have 5 cities? Yeah. So there's that curiosity factor. Yeah. Not knowing what it's like on the other side of attaining this skill. So there's progression. There's not knowing what it's like on attaining this skill. There's regular and constant feedback of bing. Oh, I've got something that worked. And also, oh no, that didn't work. Yeah. So it's very fast. The feedback loop is very fast. Yeah. So there's that. So and there are these little things that you have to do, which are essentially quite mindless sometimes, but they create certainty. So for instance, if you're talking about a game like Civilization or something, it's like, building settlers and, moving things around, that kind of thing. They're actually quite boring. They're quite dull, but they're just these little tasks that are getting you to the goal. They create the certainty. So you've got progression, you've got regular feedback, you've got curiosity, you've got leveling up, yeah, and you've got these kind of sort of workman-like tasks which create certainty, little tasks, and this regular feedback. That's what makes a game addictive, as well as, and this is probably the kind of overarching umbrella thing, it can't be too hard and it can't be too easy. Yeah. If it's too hard, too overwhelming, too fear-inducing, you'll get overwhelmed and you'll get bored. Yeah. If it's too easy, too the same old, over and over again, you're going to get, you'll get bored. It'll get stale. Yeah. So you've got these two things that you've got to navigate between. Yeah. And also the elements which I talked about. Now, you can actually recreate that same situation in your music practice. It's what I do with Zentor. One of the reasons I'm doing it live is because it's got this risk factor to it. It's like playing a game. Yeah, this doesn't mean you have to do it live, but I would recommend that you pretend that it's live, which is another reason for doing the Turbo Track Attack, by the way, because we do it live. You actually do this thing live, and there's timers, yeah, and it creates this kind of, it's like playing a game. I've literally made it like a game, yeah. And so, even this is why we've been doing in the final countdown splurge the timed splurges, because it's like doing it live. I'm giving you that kind of game-like feel, yeah. But it creates a kind of feeling of risk. But in doing it live, what will happen? Because you set up things beforehand, which is like setting up your template. If you're producing, if you're assembling music, yeah, you set up your template, and then you kind of perform your splurge. Yeah, you perform your session. Yeah, you're not sitting down and thinking and that's not it. You're preparing everything beforehand. Then you're going, I'm playing a game. Right, now I'm done. Yeah. And then you're reporting on what you've done. And as a result of that reporting on what you've done, you can then tweak the game in order to make it harder or easier, depending on how that session went. Not depending on the actual result necessarily, partly, but not necessarily of the what the music sounds like, but how addicted you were to the doing of it. So if you found it was just so confusing and overwhelming, so you got disengaged, well, that means you need to remove things from the game. Yeah, you need to make it easier. If you found you were just kind of bored and getting stale, right, that means you need to add things to the game. You need to do something, add something different. Yeah. By doing that, by understanding this kind of dynamic, how games work, you can create this situation where you're utterly addicted to making music. I mean, that's literally how it is for me now with Zentor. I actually struggle not to do it. I have to stop. I keep on in my live streams, I'm like, oh, I've got to go. I'm late because I'm just completely lost in it. I just want to keep doing it. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. Think about why a game's addictive and how you can make your process more like a game. Okay. Jace, I'm having trouble knowing when a track is really finished to the point of release. Welcome to the club. Don't we all? So, so you won't ever know that. Okay. How do I answer this question? A piece of music is never finished. We say it's finished, but it's arbitrary. Yeah. Who was it that said art is never finished, only abandoned? Yeah. I don't know if that's probably an apocryphal, one of those apocryphal quotes. But anyway, we don't know. We just have to say, okay, it's finished. Just like we have to say, I'm stopping the splurge now. Just like we have to say, okay, it's ready for drafting. It's just another decision. There is that question probably is pointing to you're expecting to have some kind of experience. The angels will sort of land on your shoulder and go, Jace, this music is now finished. And you're like, oh, great. Thank you for telling me. I am now certain it is ready. Yeah, you'll be waiting a heck of a long time if that's what you're waiting for. That's not how it works. The end of the creative process is doubt. I know when something is finished because I feel an enormous amount of doubt. It's like this doubt. I've been totally oh, this is great. Oh, this is awesome. I'm the best ever. Oh, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait for all these people to hear it. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, hang on a minute. Oh, I don't know. I'm like, there, doubt. Thank you for letting me know I'm nearly finished. I've just got to get this done and out in a session. Yeah. So doubt is what tells me a piece of music is finished. Okay. Kind of crushing doubt usually. Okay. So I know that sounds completely counterintuitive, like a lot of the other things I say, but doubt is a feature of the creative process, not a bug. Yeah. Because how you know that doubt is a feature of the creative process and not a bug, how you know that that's a signpost telling you it's finished, is that what does the end of the creative process mean? What does it mean for you? It means that your music is going to be judged. What happens to a human being when they're about to be judged? They get scared. They start to feel doubt about what they're doing. So what doubt is your unconscious, the thing that really, really knows, yeah, that what you don't fully have access to, it's your unconscious telling you that this is nearly finished or about to be finished. Okay? So yeah, that's how you know when something is finished, when you start feeling that crushing doubt. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Let's go through some of these. Lots of questions. Clint, what music software DAW would you recommend for an absolute beginner making electronic music? I'd probably start with an app on a phone, to be honest. These days. What might I start with? I don't know what app on the phone I would start with. I mean, if I was talking about a DAW, I'd probably just start with Ableton. Just because it's kind of intuitive. So yeah, probably Ableton. But really, if I was talking about somebody really starting out, I'd just get them to download an app on a phone. I'm trying to think of some that, particularly if you've got an iPhone. I'm trying to think of some that are, I can't remember what they're called. But one of the simpler ones on a phone. Called Gadget is good. That should be relatively easy to work out. Because the good thing about Called Gadget is it's kind of like it's quite DAW-y, so that they'll understand the kind of concepts around it. But if I was talking about a DAW, I'd probably start with Ableton. Although I don't actually use Ableton as much as I use other things. But just for a beginner, I think that's probably what I would use. It would be cool to hear Sally's take on how to tolerate living with a producer. I'm not sure she does. Is the short answer. Maybe tolerate, maybe just about. I mean, I think, it's really about me communicating why this is important to me and her understanding that it is, and being, and also me making sure that I'm making time for the things that are important to her as well. If you want somebody to understand what it is you do, then understand what they do and help them do what they do. And then it becomes like a collaboration, because you don't want exactly the same things, but you want some of the same things. Nate, which tool or strategy do you find most useful, effective for promoting your music? Making loads of it and making it so good they can't ignore you. I know that sounds like I'm sort of sidestepping the point, but that's it. And also what I talked about with making it discoverable. Yeah. And I wouldn't say like the problem, tool or strategy, those two things are so different that it's not, when you say strategy, what I think you're saying there, Nate, is actually tactic. Tactics, because a strategy is different from a tactic. A tactic is a part of a strategy. So my strategy is become so good they can't ignore you and make the music discoverable. Yeah, the tools and tactics I'm using to do that are the naming that I showed you, the live streaming using YouTube. Yeah, another tactic would be making shorter videos. Yeah, but that's not strategy. Yeah, and that. There aren't tools which are most useful or effective for promoting music. There are strategies which are useful for, and strategies is the whole thing, but the tools are within that. And it's like the best strategy, you can kind of use any tool. Yeah, the tools are less important. So, the question is, it maybe has a belief behind it, which is it's all about the tools and the tactics. Yeah, because I think the word that you're meaning to use there is tactic. Yeah. So what is your strategy is the question that I would be asking, first of all. Take your focus off the tools. It's like, who is it that I want to reach? Yeah, who are they? And just decide. If you don't know who, just decide, like I did. People who code, programmers, software engineers, computer science people. Yeah, I just decided that. Why? Maybe partly because I thought the music would appeal to them, but also you can just decide. Yeah. So who is it that wants my music? How I'm going to make my music relevant to them and as good as possible, so that they can't ignore it. That's the overarching strategy, and then the kind of tools and everything else become secondary to that. What do you do when you are not splurging, Earth Tribe? Or after you are done splurging, go into production mode? Well, I mean, now what I do is because I'm recording the Zentor stuff, and then I have been mastering just the stereo file. But just recently, I started mixing the. In fact, just this week, I started mixing the separate parts. I mean, but this was before I did Zentor, which is very much a live thing. When I was producing music, I've got a whole process, which is the automatic music machine. So you do splurge first, and then discovery, then draft, and then done, and then release, right? So those are the four. Let's just open up the automatic music machine. Yeah. I will show it to you. You actually get this in the Idea Explosion Challenge program too, a simplified version of it, but let me just show you. Computer's going really slow. Okay. So the splurges go in here. I mean, this is a bit different for me now, but anyway, I'll show you. So the splurges go in here, and then the ones that you decide you want to work on, they go into Discover. And in Discover, really what you're doing, and also if you want to really experience this, then do the Turbo Track Attack, because I'll take you through within 3 hours each of these different buckets, right? So in Discover, really what you're trying to figure out is what's the purpose of this track? What's it for? What's it about? Yeah. Then once you know that, it goes into Draft, and with Draft, you're saying, well, where's this going? Yeah, how does it move in time? Yeah, what's the shape of the track? What's the arc of the track? And once you've got that, then it goes into Done. And when in Done, really the question you're answering is what are the space or the spaces? What's the environment that this track is creating? Yeah, at which points? Where's it moving from and to in terms of the space? Yeah. And then anything you don't want to work on goes into the sketchbook. Anything that gets stuck goes into the sketchbook. Okay. So that's what I do when I'm not splurging. And the great thing about having this model is that it means you can work on multiple pieces of music at the same time and not get overwhelmed. It's very, very, very helpful indeed. So let's see what other questions we have. I lost my screen. Where's my screen? Okay. Schunz. Do you intentionally do multiple splurges in the same key so you can collage parts together later? Is that kind of intentional limitation totally against the idea of a splurge? No, it's not totally against the idea of a splurge. I've done splurges in all kinds of different keys. And I mean, because it's pretty easy to change the key of something. But what I do, or I have tended to do, is I do tell myself what the key is in the title. You don't have to do that. But yeah, I mean, now, when I'm doing music live, in order to, again, lower the bar, I've been sticking to some easy keys. So I do C, I do F, and today, I did a bit of B flat. So on the after party, after this, link in the description, I'm going to be in B flat. I'm going to be in B, have a bit of B flat major. How's about that? How's them apples? B flat major, here we come. But it was really good, actually, and this is what I mean about the addiction thing. I've been in C for, is that working? An F for a while, right? But just what came out of the subharmonicon was a bit, in fact, I'll play it to you. Was a bit of B flat, and I was like, ooh. So basically, what happened was this thing in B flat came out, and then I just started playing. I was like, oh, whoa, B flat major, where have you been all my life? Oh, B flat major. Oh, I've forgotten how much I love your two black keys. And that's because it's different and it's a bit of novelty, and it's created that kind of addiction thing. So yeah, like, feel free to decide on what you're going to do with keys based upon making it easy for yourself or making it harder for yourself. Okay? So, Nandala, when will you feel ready to release your music, like having your sound figured out, plus mastering, plus your marketing and website and all of that? No, I feel ready to release your music immediately, because as I said, the way that you become so good they can't ignore you is by releasing it. And you won't ever feel ready. I mean, that's the big problem with this question. When will you feel ready to release your music? You won't. Why? Because of what I said to Jace. Doubt is what happens when you release your music. So you won't feel ready. So if you're waiting to feel ready, don't wait. Just do it. Okay? The age of the finished article is over. Yeah. The age of the work in progress is upon us, which is wonderful news, because then it becomes about the practice. And that is how mastery happens. Okay? So don't wait until you're ready. You'll be waiting a very long time. Okay, Ben. I've decided to make splurging a part of my daily routine. I'm thinking of using it as a warm-up at the start of the day. Do you have a preferred time that you splurge? I think the start of the day is wonderful if you're a morning person like I am. So yeah, I mean, my preferred time is the start of the day. But to be honest with you, now it doesn't really matter. I just do it whenever. It's just, I do it when I'm on the toilet sometimes, much to my wife's chagrin. Well, yeah, I mean, just whenever. But yeah, start of the day. When I was first splurging, first really getting into it, start of the day is brilliant. Getting that creative time in at the very start of the day is an absolute winner, as long as you're a morning person, you know, a morning lark. But it can be at any time. Do I have a favorite sound from nature or the city? Now, I try to avoid favorites. It's funny because, you know, having 4 little boys, it's all, you know, favorite this and favorite that and favorite the other. And I think what we don't like can give us as much, more, in fact, joy. As, I know this sounds weird, doesn't it, and counterintuitive, but as much progress, joy, learning as what we do. So I try not to have favorites. I find it quite stultifying. So no. I can tell you a few things I like there. CGM says, yeah, I was going to ask if it's about releasing quantities of good music too. Yes. I mean, releasing a lot is definitely a go. Shouldn't, how do you get rid of old gear that you're not using but is still emotionally attached? Open up your computer, go onto eBay, make a listing, go old, you know, write the old bit of gear, decide on a price, hit publish or whatever it is in eBay. I've never done it. And then you're done. I mean, really, it's that. It's just that. How do you do something? Is basically, I mean, honestly, the answer is just, I know it's not particularly helpful, but it's like, just do it. Yeah. So how do you sit down to make music? Well, you get a chair. I mean, I don't sit down to make music. I stand up and make music. But yeah, if you do, yeah, you get a chair, you move around in front of the chair, you bend your legs until your bum is sitting on the chair. Then you're sitting down, but you're not making music. So then what you do is you lean over to your computer, you turn it on, right? Turn it on, and then you go double click, or maybe just a single click, depending on where it is, on the door thing, and then it comes up. And then you turn around to your keyboard, and you go, right, I'm making music. Yeah. So it's like that. It's like, just do each individual step, right? Because your your feelings and all of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you paid attention, I mean, if you actually followed all of your thoughts and feelings in any moment, you'd be in jail right now. I would, right? Of course, because yeah, so you are able to not do things that your emotions and your feelings are telling you. How? By taking tiny little steps to doing it. Yeah. Okay. Otto1, I'd love to ask you 2 questions. What's the best way to learn mixing and mastering? Or do you suggest leaving those aspects on hiring a third party? The answer to that question, Otto1, is yes. On to the next. No, I'm joking. So, all right. If you want to make the best result right now, immediately, and you don't know how to mix and master your stuff, then absolutely the best way to do that is hire someone else to do it who is an expert at it and who's devoted their entire life to it. It will save you loads and loads of time, and the result would be better for it. Yeah, obviously, because you're using someone who knows what the hell they're doing. Yeah. Having said that, obviously, in a lot of music, the mixing and mastering is part of the creative process. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. So if you're interested in mixing and mastering, if it's something that lights you up, that you find fun, that you find exciting, and you want it to be a part of your creative process, then what you want to do is you just want to kind of, it's almost like focus on the ideas, yeah, and on a minimum number of ideas, yeah, a minimum number of parts, because the more parts you put in, the harder it's going to be to mix, yeah. And then you go as far as you can into the process. I mean, one of the best ways to learn mixing and mastering is by employing a mixing and mastering engineer, because you'll give this thing to a mix engineer and they go, well, you've made some basic errors here. You've done this, you've not done that. You need to do this, you need to do the other. Right, there you go. Free lesson, plus you get the thing. So the next time you'll send the thing to the mix engineer and they'll go, okay, that's better. But this time you've got basically, your kick drum is in stereo and your bass isn't, and so okay, I've got to do that next time. So basically, you're kind of getting lessons from the mix engineer, yeah, with the feedback they're giving you about the mix, yeah. So you probably want to find a mix engineer who is friendly, who is helpful, and not one of those cross, oh god, ones. And there's a lot of them out there, yeah, of both types, yeah. So. I think in terms of learning mixing and mastering, is a great thing to do is hire a mixing engineer and getting a better result. But in terms of your own music, is reduce the number of parts that you're using and essentially, just focus on making them sound as good as you can. Again, the frame that I put around mixing, which is creating spaces, is really, really helpful. Consider doing the Turbo Track Attack, where I'll actually take you through the process. Because it's like, if you know what it is you're supposed to be doing, it becomes a lot easier to do. Yeah, and the trouble is with a lot of mixing and mastering stuff, it's all about the tools and the techniques without actually anyone putting a frame around it. It's like, well, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, I mean, I never learned mixing and mastering myself, aside from just by doing it. Okay, and I went to mastering engineers, and they, and I attended cuts because it was on records back then, and they told me various things, and I learned that way, and I learned by doing. I actually ended up mixing a lot of people's music back in the day, which is hilarious because I honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I just do it, right? So the best thing to do is just do it loads. Yes, hire a mixing mastering engineer because you'll get a lot of information from them if they're a good one. Simplify what you're doing. Focus on the ideas. And yeah, if you listen to something that you've done and you're like, well, there's some problem with the bass end or something, then at another time, in another place, not when you're making music, maybe just make a kind of note of, well, I need to learn something more about that. It's not, I need to learn more about compression. No, that's not how I would approach it at all, because it's coming backwards. It's like I need to learn how to make a kick and the bass work together better. Yeah, what are the various different ways I can do that? It's almost like, what's the purpose of the thing that you are doing? It's not about the tool. This is similar to, was it Nate's question about marketing? It's not about the tool and the tactic. Yeah, it's about the purpose of what you're doing, which the tools and the tactics serve. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, I will make some videos on this channel about how I think about mixing, some free videos too at some point. But just because I think there's a lot of great information out there, but it's like out of context, and it just becomes massively confusing and overwhelming, and you just don't know what you're supposed to do. It's like, oh, use this and use that. No, don't use this. No, don't use that. Okay, what are we actually doing? Why are we doing it? And how? What are the various different ways we can get there? That's how kind of I approach it. So yeah, if you'd like some of that, then click like, subscribe, remind, all that stuff. Ottawan, what's your preference, releasing with labels or independently? So it's interesting, Ottawan. Both of your questions have been either or questions. Because my answer to this one is yes. Again. So just in general, Ottawan and everyone, notice how often you're creating an either or. Okay? Because the right answer is almost never that or the other. Yeah, it could be a combination of the two. It can be somewhere in between them, or it can be something entirely different. Yeah, I think one of the ways in which the human race is reliably sending itself insane, yeah, particularly on social media and things like that, is by the either or. It's either this, 100%, or it's that. 100%. And if you're anything else, then you're wrong and you're evil. Like, honestly, it's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense, right? So let's not either or ourselves. Okay. Now, Ottawan, I understand the question. I would be thinking about, so if I was thinking about, this, well, I tell you actually what I did. What I did was I released my music myself on my own labels, and I sent that music to labels as well before I released it. And I said, hey mate, I'm releasing this in 3 months' time, but I won't release it if you want to release it. Do you want to release it? No? All right, great. Right? So then I'd release it. Yeah. Or okay, do you want to release it? They'd be like, yeah, I'd love to release it. We're like, great, there you go. So it doesn't have to be an either or. Yeah. I mean, why? I mean, some people choose to do an either or, like my client for a very long time, Claude Von Stroke. He wouldn't release on other labels for a very long time because he just wanted to focus on his Dirty Bird thing, which was great. So, if you want to do that, then do that. Release it yourself, make your own label. But my preferred strategy is to get the best of both worlds by, the other benefit to doing that is that, how much more powerful is it to say to someone, look, I'm releasing this in 3 months. Do you want it? Than, please, sign my track. Please, I want you. Please. Yeah, that right. It's much more confident. Yeah, and they're like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's not an either or. And when you are either oring yourself, notice. Hey Mike, do you use a music distributor like DistroKid? I'm thinking of signing up for one of these. Yeah, if you want to release your music on the platforms, you're going to have to. So yeah, there's DistroKid, there's Symphonic, there's, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. Something.io. Oh, totally forgotten. There's one of them which is like, it's almost like Amuse. There you go, Amuse.io. Actually, somewhere where you might actually get some good information about this is it Ari or Ari? Ari's Take? Ari's Take. He's got a blog post about all of the different distributors. Go and check that blog post out. So do Ari's Take distributors in Google, and and he's written books and stuff as well. And he's absolutely great. Got nothing bad to say about him at all. I think that the one danger with the book that he's done is that it tells you everything that you could do. Right, and you don't really want to be doing everything, so just be careful of that. It's like he knows a lot, and he's sort of saying, the 5 million things that you could do, and really you just want to focus. But if you want to know what a good distributor is, he regularly updates that blog post. So go and check that out. So yeah, I don't use DistroKid myself, but I hear good things and bad things about them, just like anyone else. Okay. I'm going to have to stop in 5 minutes and go and do my Zentor thing. I'm feeling overwhelmed, Muzz, by the number of good ideas I'm currently creating. Any tips on speeding up the process of turning a sketch into a finished releasable track? Yes, loads of them. So, number one, consider doing the turbo track attack. The first thing to do is just don't worry about 5,000 steps ahead. At the moment, you're still splurging, so just focus on that. Okay. You don't have to feel overwhelmed, because that probably means you think, well, I've got to finish all of these good ideas. What happens if you've got too many good ideas? How do you choose between them? Because you're not going to be able to finish them all. Well, you choose the best ones. So the quality is improving. Oh, how's that happening? So once again, quantity is leading to quality, because you're having to choose the best of the best. Yeah, the good ideas aren't all going to be the same quality, are they? No, some of them are going to be better than others. So then you don't need to feel overwhelmed. You just need to pick the even better ones. Okay. Also, if you don't want to do the turbo track attack, then there is the automatic music machine in the final chapter of the Idea Explosion Challenge competition. I show you how to process this music, and how to think about actually choosing what you're going to do. Yeah, and in listening, you'll actually get a much clearer picture of what to choose. So there's no need to feel overwhelmed. At the end of the day, going back to my automatic music machine over here. Look at that. This is all unfinished ideas, and the yellow ones, the yellow labels here, they're all things that I thought I might want to finish at some point. Look at all the stuff I've not finished. Am I feeling overwhelmed? No, I'm feeling excited. Absolutely, it's brilliant. I feel proud of myself. Yeah, because unfinished ideas, stuff that you don't finish, it's not a waste. You haven't wasted your time because you've practiced. Yeah, those ideas have got you to where you are now. So there's no need to feel overwhelmed. Okay. Okay. Just looking through. Rob, keen to take your track attack workshop. One of my biggest struggles is finishing lyrics that I actually think are good. Do you think this will help with that? Well, okay. In the turbo track attack, I suggest that you don't do it with lyrics. However, what I am showing, so there's a lot of different levels to this, yeah? So there's the thing that you are doing. So I am twiddling a knob. Again, this is about the tool and the tactic and the strategy and the purpose, right? So there's a thing, I am twiddling a knob, which is opening a filter, which is making the sound brighter, right? So I'm just going from twiddling a knob, opening a filter, making the sound brighter, which is bringing the sound closer to the listener, which is creating tension, yeah, or releasing tension, depending on what it is, yeah, or releasing tension, because, so you can see that there's multiple levels to any activity. Yeah, so in the Turbo Track Attack workshop, you are writing instrumental music, and the reason is it's much, much quicker and it's much easier to do. Yeah, so you'll actually be doing exercises which is showing you what the different stages of the creative process are, which will then mean that okay, so first I need to do this, as broadly speaking. First I need to come up with the idea, then I need to figure out what the purpose is, then I need to turn it into a story, then I need to edit and finish it and turn it into a sort of whip it into shape so that it's kind of edit it into shape, if you like. So by actually doing that with instrumental music, you can apply those same principles to lyric writing as well. Of course, it's like I'm not actually showing you how to twist the knob in terms of your lyric writing, but you'll learn a lot. So I do think it will help with lyric writing, but you won't be writing any lyrics in the Turbo Track Attack workshop. Okay, I am actually making automatic song machine, a lyric machine as well at the moment. That's in development. So yeah, just kind of stick around, and we'll start talking about that fairly soon. Something you might want to do is actually think about lyrics that I like. The I like bit is probably where the big thing is coming from. How do you know you like it? So, Stephen, how can I spend less time on the fiddly time consuming stuff? Adding the polish seems to take 80% of the time. What would your music sound like without polish? How would you make good music if you didn't have to polish it? I mean, to be honest with you, the end part of the process does take longer for less of a perceivable result. So one of the things you can do, as I said, is use somebody else. That moves a lot of time as well. If you haven't got the money to do that, or you don't, if you like doing it, then do the same thing. Use timers. Again, have a frame around what you're doing. So, I mean, I don't think about mixing as polishing things. I just don't. I think it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible way. I don't want my music to be polished. What do I want? I want it to be like, I want it to be like that. When I think of polish, I'm more like, like that. Like, what's this bloody polish thing that everyone keeps on going on about? Yeah, I want it. Yeah, so maybe stop thinking about it as polish. Maybe that will help. So yeah, it's like, when everyone keeps on banging on about having it being professional. I'm like, I want my lawyers to be professional. I want my brain surgeons to be professional. I want my pilots to be professional. I'm not sure I want my musicians to be professional. I don't know about that. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to... Song section. Rose says, I need a gif of the polished face. Me and my face. All right, so... Oh, Rob, can we see your effect pedals, Mike, please? And are they getting recorded when live? I don't have any effect pedals. I've got a piano pedal, which does this. But I haven't got any effects pedals. I use, so how I do things is, I don't use a DAW. I don't use a DAW. Or can I just say, I'm just going to move on to this. I just saw a comment and I just need to address this because it's one of those things. I'll come back to what we're doing. Right. Labelworks, in my opinion, is the best distribution platform as a little guy. So, Mike, have you used all distribution platforms? Have you? So then you can't say that. I just think it's really important for us to be aware of how we can't say that. You could say, I've had a really good experience with Labelworks and I think it's great. That's absolutely fine, but you can't say it's the best distribution platform because you've not used all of them. And I know that's like, I'm picking like, being anal, but it's really, really important because it's just you end up getting all of this opinion nonsense bouncing around the internet and people start arguing about stuff. Yeah. I'm sure it's not the best. It may well be something that you've had a great, and I've got nothing, I'm not speaking, if you'd have said symphonic, or I would have said the same thing. Yeah. So you've had a great experience with Labelworks. Brilliant. I've heard good things about them too. Doesn't mean they're the best. Yeah, because they might not be the best for someone else. The reason I picked up on that, Mike, is that obviously I'm a giver of advice. Okay, I'm a coach as well, which isn't the same as giving advice. I'm a coach, and I'm very aware of the dangers of advice, both solicited and unsolicited. Okay, so coming back to what I do, I don't use a DAW for my stuff at this stage when I'm actually making it. I use this nightmarish looking thing, which is, what's this called? What's it called? It's called a Gig Performer, right? And it's a bit like a main stage. And here you can see I've got the subharmonicon and then a chain. I've got the DFAM coming in here and then a chain. I've got the Mother 32 and then a chain. And then I've got the live instruments. Where are they? Coming in over here. It says looper, but I'm not using a looper. And the live instruments are coming out of a VST on this computer over here. And what I'm using for the effects stuff, because I ain't got any money to spend on effects pedals, is these two things on the that's on the Mother 32 and that's on the subharmonicon. Now, I'm not massively keen on the sound that these things make, like the actual quality of the sound. They're very digital sounding. So what I've done is I've put them through this and this. Okay, just to give them a bit of warmth, basically. And yeah, and also I've got this on the DFAM. So yeah, I mean, I'm not an analog purist at all. I think that analog is wonderful. It's got beautiful sound to it, but I really, I think that digital stuff, you can do so much more. Like it's almost like you can do whatever you imagine, which can be a terrible thing. But as long as you've got the mental sort of strategies in place to be able to avoid the rabbit hole of ultimate ruin and doom, then using digital means you can do so many things so much more easily and so much more cheaply and so much more quickly than you can with just analog alone. So that's why I kind of do both things. It's not just pedals and outboard. Really, the only 3 bits of analog that I've got are the 3 Moogs. Of course, I'd love more, but at the end of the day, I don't want to get divorced. So, so probably best not to buy any more. What's the first thing you do when going from splurging to creating a track? Listen to it. And think, what's the purpose of this track? Or what could the purpose be of this track? And then I make a list. So Earth Tribe, if you can, consider doing the turbo track attack, because I'll show you. Well, you'll actually do it, more than show you. We'll do it together. So yeah. Oh, here we go. So Rose saying something about turbo track attack. I wrote a song, and this was the last one, the last workshop we did, with the turbo track attack, but with phonetics, and came back with lyrics that night. There you go. All right, well, I'm going to go over onto my Mike Mundaly channel, and I'm going to do my B-flat major thing that I just briefly played you for the after party. It's been great hanging out here. Hopefully these questions have been useful. How long would you need to hold on to a raw peeled potato, or before you had a mental breakdown before of it? I don't know. I've never tried. I wouldn't be able to answer that question without actually testing it, Dominic. I'll just quickly go through these before we finish. Let's say for an hour splurge, blimey. I would be not splurging for an hour, first of all. I'd probably be splurging for a lot less time than that. Do you work on anything that you're inspired by right away? Do you wait? No, wait. Yeah, don't. Yeah, I would not take things straight away. There's this whole idea, you've got to strike while the iron's hot. No, we make the iron hot by striking. You don't have to strike while the iron's hot. That's a belief that is endemic in the creative community. Ideas, they're in a certain amount of time. That's not true. It's simply not true. If an idea is good, it will speak to you when it wants to speak to you. Simple as that. So no, I leave them for a few days, listen later, decide which to work on them. Okay, that is it. I'm going to go and do my Zentor thing now. So I will see you over there for the after party if you want. Links in the description. So until tomorrow, when it is the direct listening Idea Explosion Challenge competition, onwards and upwards.